Hello everyone, we are back on the update 1.77 second dev server, and what has been the new addition to this? Well, the new addition compared to the first one is the AMX-30. This actually wasn't present on the first dev server, weirdly enough. This is a bundle vehicle that you can buy in the War Thunder shop on the website, and it's nice to see it represented on the second dev server instead of it just not being in the game until launch. So, what is the difference between this and the AMX-30 series? Well, this is pretty much a carbon copy of the 1972 version. The only issue is that the 1972 version gets a 20mm coaxial, whereas this only gets a 50 cal, the 12.7mm M2HB. If we look at the modifications of this machine, they are pretty much exactly the same as the non-premium version, at least all that matters, and you have to rely on that heat shell, which a lot of people have disregarded as a terrible shell compared to its competition. At 7.3 though, I think this heat shell is much better than what it was before. I believe it was at 7.7, and yeah, it's not as good as stuff like APF SDS, but at 7.3 generally people aren't slugging that thing around. They're generally chucking around Sabo and Heat FS. So I think it's a little bit better than before, but it still is definitely the worst round compared to those three options. If we look at the armor profile of the AMX-30, it is nothing to really write home about. There is no area where you will really bounce a shot which is fired at 7.3, unless somebody is lobbing smoke or HE at you. And because of that, it means that you have to play incredibly defensively, because you're also missing another key component of what makes tanks good at this BR, which is their ability to have a stabilizer. The AMX-30 right now does not have a stabilizer in the game, which is very sad. And if we look at the X-ray, also we have the ammunition in the back of the turret here, and also the ammunition down here. The gun itself, the 105mm, does have quite a long reload as well. 8.7 seconds is, well, quite long compared to some of its competitors, or at least the ones that people use around this BR. And the speed is good, but it's just not the best. So overall, what you get is pretty much a carbon copy of a tank that in the tree right now is not performing that well unless you play it incredibly defensively. And even then, you struggle against some of the much more aggressive tanks such as the Leopard A1A1 or some of the heavies, which you can't always reliably pen. It is nice to get a fully upgraded AMX-30 though. The AMX-30, when fully upgraded, does have a decent speed behind it, which is nice. And as you can see, the main issue with it is the gun though. A lot of tanks, especially if you look at British tanks, American tanks, apart from some of them, and if you look at British tanks, some American tanks, some Russian tanks, by this point, or this BR, they do have some kind of stabilizer on them. Also the Japanese tanks, and it's just very sad to see that the AMX-30 does not. But the thing is, the heat round itself will go through pretty much everything it faces. 400mm of penetration is a nice number to have, and you can see it's going through the front plates of stuff like T62s. I mean, going through T62s maybe isn't the best example. Whoops, we're showing the stabilizer there. But let's just see if we can go through the front plate of a T55 angled, which is one of your main competitors. Yep, straight through the front plate. So as you can see, the round itself is good enough to penetrate anything you're going to fight. Hopefully when the... oh my god, hopefully when the live server comes out, this heat shell gets a little bit of work to make it slightly better. But you can go through the pretty much everything when you look armor-wise of a lot of the mediums that you will face. The heavy tanks have generally gone out of favor, especially for the Russians, so facing them is not going to be something that you're going to see a lot of. But let's just see if we can just shoot it in the front plates. Yep, it'll go straight through the front plates of the T10M, which is the heaviest armored tank for the Russians, at least in the heavy tree, and it'll go straight through the turret as well. This thing also has the ready loading ammo rack, which, let's see, is present in the back of the turret. So as you can see here, the top rack of the turret has been depleted by the rounds that I've fired. So the ready rack will add ammo to the turret. This means that all you have to do is penetrate the turret of the AMX-30, and what will happen is it will die. Because no matter how much ammunition you have in this thing, it's going to be loaded in the back of the turret. And since your turret doesn't have any exceptional armor and people are firing sabot and heat at it, it will hit that back of the turret and it will just blow up your tank in a wonderful ammunition explosion. If you're facing something like a T-64A, which you generally won't face, you may have a few issues penning the thing. But overall, with the targets that you do face, such as these guys over here, you will be able to go after them in quite a wonderful fashion. It doesn't have dual drive either. There are just a lot of things missing on this tank which are present on other 7.3s, and including a stabilizer. Most of them have dual drive. Most of them are pretty much the same speed of this, acceleration-wise, and a lot of them have better reloads. So it's definitely not the best tank out there, but if you are looking to grind your French tree, especially with maybe if something like a Leclerc comes along, this would be the tank to take, or even the AMX-40. The AMX-40 is another thing to look forward to. But in my opinion, of course it hull breaks since it's heat. In my opinion, I've enjoyed playing the French tree, but it's mainly been down to the AMX-13s. The Lorraine 40T is a bit fun, but when I've tried to play my AMX-30, it has not been enjoyable. And since this machine is slightly worse than it, in the form of having the form of the 50 cal instead of the 20, which I do believe is worse in a coaxial position, and also since it's getting the ready racks, which means that any penetration to the turret is going to be death. Maybe that helps it with other vehicles like the Leopards, also getting this technology added, but the thing is, you have no armor on your turret, and because you have to play defensive, hopefully you get the first shot off so you can nail their ammo rack, but if you miss or if you're on the move, you're pretty much dead if you're trying to be an aggressive, or in an aggressive position. Overall, if you aren't looking to grind the French tree, this would not be a pickup for me. I would personally prefer the Magak, but that's because I like the gun on the Magak, and I also like the look of the Magak. The AMX-30 is pretty much there if you want to grind out the tree, and that's about it. It is a good looking tank though. The French definitely made some beautiful tanks. But anyway, I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time.